Welcome to the Gentlemen for Liberty podcast, a place for stimulating conversation on the philosophy of liberty and natural law. We aim to promote individualism and self-ownership through productive discourse. With restoring liberty as our ultimate goal, here are your hosts, Derek Wills and John Galt.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a special episode of the Gentlemen for Liberty podcast. This one is going to be kind of a different vibe than we usually do, and that's because there's a sense of urgency behind this one. We have a special guest with us today that is facing prosecution from the state. Surprise, surprise. And we want to make sure that we get his story out as quickly as humanly possible, so that way we can all try and, I guess, use the legal system to intervene as best as we can and try and help him out. His name is Nickolas Wildstar, and in case, and just so everybody knows, my partner in crime, as always, Mr. John Galt, is alongside me as well. John, how are you this morning, sir?
I'm well, sir. Thank you for asking. How are you?
Oh, I'm fantastic. Any better, it would be a felony. But along with us today, like I said, this is kind of this is a special episode because we need to get his story known as soon as possible, and that is Nickolas Wildstar. Nickolas, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the Gentlemen for Liberty podcast, sir.
Pleasure indeed to be here. Thank you both for inviting me on to the show and giving me an opportunity to be heard by more people.
Absolutely.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, no, seriously. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation. And I hope that that our listeners will help spread this message as far and wide, as fast as humanly possible, to get you as much help as you could possibly need. So a lot of people might not know what's exactly going on with you. So why don't we start at the beginning with what led to this entire fiasco that you're dealing with? So what started the whole thing?
Absolutely. Well, I'm a long-time civil rights activist. You know, I've fought against abuses of authority for maybe over the past 10 years or so. And in my aspirations of doing so, and I've enveloped in political activism and have turned that into multiple runs for office. So I ran for governor of California twice before now. I ran for mayor of Fresno, and I ran for city council of Fullerton, the city that I was living in. While I was living in Fullerton in Orange County, I had multiple situations involving the police and multiple incidents. I was stopped while walking while black, riding my bicycle, getting gas at the gas station, and I recorded all of these incidents and put them on my YouTube channel. And of course, as a candidate, someone out there that's promoting fighting against, abuses of authority in our government and advocating for criminal justice reform, I got to show and prove also and with my personal life experiences as well. So every time that I appear in court, I argue against, the judge's position of authority, since, when you dig into law, you find out more about representation and how it works. And the judges, 9 times out of 10, are acting outside of their authority. I mean, when you go into a courtroom, they give you all sorts of paperwork. One of them that they provide here in California is to let you know that if a commissioner is ever on the bench, if you don't object to their authority, that you are pretty much accepting their authority and they can rule over your case. So you have to say something. A lot of people don't know this. I do. So in September of 2018, I had 2 traffic citations that I appeared in court for, both being handled by commissioners. And each time that I spoke with the judicial officers, I let them know that pretty much that, of course, they have a constitutional oath to uphold, and I was objecting against their authority, and basically that I wanted the charges dropped and to be sent home. Believe it or not, both judges agreed that the charges should be dropped, and they dismissed them, but they also tried to apply civil assessment fees and make me pay fines for the crime, and I didn't think that was fair at all, so I objected to that. I recorded all of this exchange with my cell phone the entire time, and the bailiffs in both incidents pretty much walked over to try to forcefully stop me from recording, and then they would notify the judge, who then said stop recording, and I refused to let them know, hey, I have the constitutional right under the First Amendment, freedom of press, and the Sixth Amendment, the right to a fair and public trial. And since there is no stenographer present or notification letting me know that this is on a record, then I want to make my own record to preserve the integrity of the court, and that's the one thing about traffic courts here in California, is there is no stenographer present. There is no court reporter. So the majority of what happens is off the record. I, again, wanted to make sure that we're holding our officials accountable, and that's why I chose to record. The judges didn't like that, and they had me thrown out of the courtroom. So these incidents maybe lasted 5 minutes or so. And after these exchanges, I pretty much just washed it off. So almost a year later, while I'm living in Fresno, running for mayor, I was stopped for driving while black, another video on YouTube that I have, and was arrested and taken into custody for having warrants out for my arrest for contempt of court. And this was nearly a year later, over a year later. I found out that the charges that were filed against me for contempt of court weren't filed until nearly a year later, when they would have met the statute of limitations. So I believe that the Orange County District Attorney's Office was upset that my videos went viral and embarrassed their position of authority, and they wanted to make an example out of me. So they put out warrants for my arrest for new charges. So I was arrested and released. With about 12 hours later, my wife had to take care of our son on our own, since we were on a road trip. But ultimately, I got out of jail and had another court date in December of 2019. I went to that one, and this time I wasn't openly recording using a cell phone. I was wearing spy glasses. So I have a secret recording of that, which I recently released on my YouTube channel. But during this video, you can see the exchange that I'm having with the judge again, that lasted nearly an hour. And it was more so just the language that was being used in this video that was upsetting to the court, which is why the judge at that moment found me in contempt, and I was arrested right there on the spot. And I was held in jail maybe about 8 days or so. I missed my son's first Christmas and got out a little bit before New Year's.
I'm sorry, was this arrest after they had arrested you a year later for contempt of court, a warrant for a contempt of court, and
Yes.
then you were released, and then you were back in court, and they found you in contempt of court again and arrested you again?
Yes. Isn't that crazy? So I was arrested for contempt of court for just speaking to the judge in the fashion that I did, which they deemed to be disrespectful. But if you watch the video, there's nothing disrespectful about it. And these people work for us. They tend to forget that when we give them their job of authority. But we can easily take away that costume as well as that position. And they tend to forget that. We should definitely be reminding them of that. And when I did, he didn't, take it lightly and had me arrested. So I was arrested for contempt of court right then and there, but released, as I said, 8 days later, and ended up having a new court date to deal with, this time with three three separate, or six really, charges for 3 incidents, including the last one that I was arrested for. So I had a total of 6 contempt of court charges. 3 of them were for disobeying an unlawful order, which is the judge telling me to stop recording, but not in the third because I wasn't recording, to the judge's knowledge. And then the other 3 is for disobeying a court rule. The court has a rule which is no recording or no usage of cell phone devices, and it has this, outside of the door. But it isn't a law. Rules are not laws. I can have a rule that says, take your shoes off when you come in my house, but if you do, that wouldn't be breaking the law, Now, California does have a law, PC 148G, where people are able to record public officials in their public capacity in a public place. And a courthouse is no different than a library or, a post office. So I chose to, again, exercise my right under the law and protected by the United States Constitution. And still, this judge felt like his authority was above all of that. So they definitely exhibit the idea that the rules only apply to the peons and not the oligarchs, which they see themselves as. And as I said, I had these new charges that I've been dealing with over the past few years since this happened in 2018. And just recently, I had a trial in front of jurors, 12 jurors in Orange County, which is predominantly white. So my jury was whitewashed. There was no person of color on it whatsoever. The black population in Orange County is a little less than 2%, and there's maybe 6 million people that live there. Excuse me. So I had to drive from Fresno, which is about 4 hours away, take my family with me, pay for hotels and food and travel expenses, just to deal with this stupid bull that I don't want to use any profanity. I don't know how you work your show, but
we try and refrain. We try and refrain from cursing as much as possible. But by all means, I'm not. I'm not going to censor you, man. By all means, feel free to speak your mind.
I mean, it's just some frivolousness, It's stupid.
So I have a question for you, and literally none of this makes sense, but this in particular, you live in Fresno.
Yes.
Why are you being tried in Orange County?
Because that's where the incident happened. So,
which incident in particular?
Both of the recording incidents where I was in traffic court. So since this happened in Orange County and the Orange County DA is the one who filed charges, it's handled out of Orange County.
And so the moving violations happened in Orange County? Or the traffic citations, rather, happened in Orange County?
Correct, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. And so just kind of to recap, there's a lot here.
I know, right?
So you went to court for 2 traffic violations that ultimately the judge dismissed.
Yes.
But they wanted you to pay essentially court costs for that, which you objected to. You leave not paying court costs, and they never ordered you to pay. You raised your objections, and that was it, essentially? Okay. So you leave, and then a year later, you're driving. And tell us about this incident a year later. You said that you were driving while black, and then I absolutely believe it, but let's, if we could, kind of expand on the specifics of what happened there.
Sure. I was actually leaving a Black Guns Matter event in Santa Cruz.
With Maj Touré, huh?
Yeah, first time meeting the guy. And I went out there. Like I said, I was running for mayor, so I'm all about building alliances, and I'm pro Second Amendment, so I wanted to promote the Black Guns Matter, mission to the inner cities here in Fresno. And after I left that event, hit the road, I have my wife with me, my newborn son, who's maybe 6 months or at that time. No, he was born in September, October, November. He was 3 months at that time. So, and I had a friend of mine with me who does video recording. So we were driving and coasting on the highway, flow of traffic, all sorts of cars and trucks and everybody rolling with us. I get picked out of the group for speeding, so I'm objecting to him saying I'm speeding, and I'm like, prove it, since I'm speeding, prove it.
And he couldn't produce an actual speed that you were going or show you the radar gun or anything like that?
No, it was all just hearsay. And I said, see, man, that's the problem right there. We get in court, we're going to have this exchange where it's hearsay. It isn't worth your time. It's not worth my time. It's not worth taxpayers' time. You know what I'm saying? Let's just be honest. You picked me out of the group because you saw a black man driving in the car, with a whole bunch of people, and you wanted to investigate, see if the car smells like weed or something like that. But then he saw the baby, and all that went out the window. So,
and was this also in Orange County?
No,
or no, this was in Fresno.
No, this was in Santa Cruz.
Santa Cruz, sorry.
Yeah. So yeah, basically after all of this, he's like, well, can I just get your ID or whatever? So I gave him the ID, thinking, hey, I'm good, You
have no reason to expect that you have any warrants or anything like that, right?
Exactly, right. You can see in the video, I'm being, all flippant about it. So I give him the ID. He comes back and he's like, well, everything's cool, but I got to take you into custody, man. And he didn't want to do it. I could tell that he did just off his demeanor, and but he said, hey, I ran it. I came back with these warrants, so I got to take you into custody, man. So I was arrested right there on the spot. Had to sit in Santa Cruz jail, which is, I've been arrested many times as a freedom fighter. And Santa Cruz, what is it, Sheriff's Department, they're not that bad. I got to give them a pat on the back. I even left them a review on Yelp. Because one of the sheriffs, I said it to her, she was like, leave us a review on Yelp. I would really appreciate it because we pay attention to that. So, but yeah.
Man, whenever they kidnapped me, they used such minimal violence. And the jail was really nice. The cage was super nice.
Exactly. They actually gave me beverages when I told them, hey, I'm thirsty. So, yeah, very nice
that was
people.
Just sweet of your kidnappers to make sure that you have provision.
I mean, you have to find the positives there.
Exactly. When I say my cuffs are too tight, they loosen them just a little bit, good. So, yeah. But I ended up sitting in the jail cells a little over 12 hours or something like that. So my wife, she just had to drive around, her and my friend and my baby, just kind of just coast the area until I was released. But once they spit me out, they gave me a new court date, which was this December 20th, 2019 court date where I showed up and was arrested at. So it's just stupid because, like I said,
that was the one where
ago.
That was the one where you have a warrant for contempt of court and they arrest you for another contempt of court charge, right?
Right.
Just so I'm tracking all of the different levels of absurdity here.
Mm-hmm. And corruption, because if I'm arrested for contempt of court in that third case, why did I go on trial for contempt of court? Right?
I don't know. Now I don't know California law all that well. I know that it is egregious.
Well, that's obvious that they're prosecuting me twice. If you go to court and the judge found you in contempt of court and arrested you right then and there, then you've just been found guilty of the crime and just have been punished for it, right? You get kicked out of jail, you leave, and now you have a new court date for contempt of court for that court date that you just went to and spent time in jail for. Is that fair? So you would have to spend time in jail again if you get found guilty, even though you already did that. So that's exactly what happened with me with this third case. Is I was prosecuted twice, found guilty twice, and now I'm facing sentencing, which is Friday, March 12th, because this recent jury trial that I had, They unanimously found me guilty for all of the charges. Despite the evidence, despite me getting on the stand and during my testimony explaining how I was acting under the First Amendment and PC 140AG, which I read off in its totality, but because the judge and the prosecutor, of course, conspired to tamper the jury by saying the law is what we tell you. Any other law that's introduced, dismiss it completely. My attorney even got up during her closing argument, started to speak about 148G. And as soon as she did, the prosecutor objected and the judge sustained it, which means she had to change direction on what she was saying. And then they basically asked the jury to omit that. And,
so the charges you were actually found guilty of, tried and convicted of, is just a simple contempt of court charge?
Well, no, again, contempt of court.
What penal statute?
Right, exactly, because that's the actual quote-unquote law. PC 166A and 1 and PC 166A 3. So if you look at the language of them both, as I said, it's pretty much penalizing me for the same crime. One says disobeying a court order. The other says disobeying the court's authority. So isn't
I just pulled it up. I just pulled it up. So California Penal Code, Chapter 7, Section 166. Except it's provided by subdivisions B, C, and D, a person is guilty of the following contempts of court is guilty of a misdemeanor. 1, which is the first charge,
right.
Disorderly, contemptuous, or insolent behavior committed during the sitting of a court of justice.
Insolent.
In the immediate, yeah.
Wait.
Insolent.
Now listen to all of the language. You said a court of justice. A commissioner is not a judge. Right. Okay, so they can't really find me in contempt of court because there was no court. This is all legalese, and read this shit, and it's pardon me, with our common language, and we think that we just read it in our own definition. They have their own definitions and understandings of these words. So everything that you're saying all has a double meaning.
Oh yeah. But here's what's hilarious is the last part of this first provision.
Right.
Disorderly, contemptuous, or insolent behavior committed during the sitting of a court of justice in the immediate view and presence of the court, and directly tending to interrupt its proceedings or to impair the respect due its authority. Wow.
Right.
That is probably all right. So here in Texas, as with many states, and I'm sure California is included in all of this, our disorderly conduct law is written so vaguely you could literally be arrested for it just because a cop doesn't like you. This is right along those lines, but specific to court. And then 3, the other one that you're charged with, a breach of the peace, noise, or other disturbance directly tending to interrupt the proceedings of a court. Okay, I'm curious here because this is this seems to be the common theme here. Interrupting the proceedings of the court.
Right.
That's mentioned in both of those.
Exactly.
How did your recording interrupt the proceedings of the court?
Exactly. The prosecutor wasn't able to prove that. He, during his closing argument, pounded into the heads of the jurors that my recording was just dragging off the process, causing such a disturbance and interrupting everybody else's court cases that, the courtroom just grinded to a halt. Now, remember again, those first 2 appearances was maybe 5 minutes in, the videos, which means I maybe spent 3 minutes or so in court having this exchange with the judges. And the first one, or judicial officers, since they were commissioners. But the first one, I was the last case, so there wasn't anybody else in the room except for me, my companion, and the bailiffs. and then we left. The second one, there were a few people there, and again, it was maybe just a few minutes. During this, what I guess what he tried to drum up was a disturbance. I had let the judge know that if you're not going to respect my constitutional rights and your job is to uphold the United States Constitution, then you're committing treason. You're not upholding your oath. So I turned to the bailiff. I said, bailiff, the judge is not, or, judicial officer isn't upholding his oath. It's now your duty to arrest him. Will you arrest him? He said no. I said, okay. I turned around to the audience. I said, so now, people of the public, it's up to us. We just saw these two people commit a crime. They're not upholding their United States oath. They're committing treason. Will you assist me in the citizen's arrest? I said, I need two witnesses, two of you to raise your hand, say you'll help me, and we can make this happen. Nobody raised their hand, and of course, the bailiffs escorted me out. But during the trial, again, the prosecutor wanted to make it seem like I was just interrupting courtroom, but the third one, he just skimmed over briefly because I wasn't recording, and that one lasted nearly an hour, like I said. Why didn't he want to touch that one at all? They played a small snippet of a recording that one of the deputies had from his audio recorder, and he was an arresting officer, so he got there late. And all they played was a snippet of an audio recorder provided by an officer. Why didn't you provide an official court record, since everything is recorded in court like you're telling us, from that day? They weren't able to furnish one because there isn't one. So that stands to reason invalidate why I would want to record my own cases, and why everyone else should as well.
Yeah. John, do you have a...
Yeah, I wanted to be quiet and listen because I want him to have his voice heard. This is absolutely absurd. I want you to think about the resources that are being allocated to criminalize your behavior. This is shameful. And the language of the Penal Code of California, this contempt for the authority of the court, it's hilarious because the language is very suggestive of a elevated position. As I often sarcastically say that these people, judges sit on their bench from a position where you would swear they were superior beings, with higher ethical and intellectual capacity, and that they were beings of greater of higher quality, and therefore I am qualified to pass judgment on you as the lower life form.
Right.
And it's so bizarre. I'm sorry you're experiencing this, sir. This is really shameful. I honestly, it's actually, it would be funny if there wasn't an actual human life, your human life, that was being made subject to the whims of these people, right? Because as you already know, men with guns will comply with the edicts of these self-appointed gods. Apparently, God.
John, I don't know how many times I have to tell you this, but when one becomes an authority recognized by the state, they go through rites and rituals that transcends them into morally superior and absolutely perfect and incorruptible human being. They transcend into that. It's almost as if they are gods. This is why statism is religion, and it's because of this transcendence that the state bestows upon its agents and its commissioners and its judges. They are better than us. We're just peasants. Don't you understand that?
Oh, I understand. That's what they believe anyway.
Right. And they don't like to be reminded of that. And that's what I was doing. And I let them know, hey, I'm running for office. I ever get elected, don't think I'm going to forget about all of this. I'm going to be the one holding your ass accountable. You can bleep that out. But no. But John brought up a great point, the waste of resources. I mean, right now in California, you have murderers, rapists, and thieves being released out of jail over this COVID crisis, yet they're willing to put someone like me, make a political prisoner out of me by sending me to jail because I am a candidate running for governor right now, actively. And the district attorney's office, they're still keeping tabs on me. My attorney sent me an email, let me know that they sent in a tweet that I had put out about the jurors not, looking like me. So
I don't know what you're talking about. That was clearly a jury of your peers, sir.
Right. And they didn't like me pointing that out, apparently, and are already causing a fuss about information that I'm putting out there. So they're definitely watching me and are wanting to make sure that they make an example out of me in any way, shape, or form. So at my sentencing, Friday, March 12th, I'm holding a protest against all of this. If anybody thinks this is a waste of time, taxpayers' money, abuse of our criminal justice system, as well as our constitutional rights, then please show up, protest against, me being possibly sent to jail for 6 years. The maximum penalty per charge is a year each. And
oh my God!
Oh God! I was about to ask that. Are you serious?
Yes, sir. Penalty is a year each one, and I have 6 charges, so they can push. They can do it consecutively. Yep.
That's insane.
And again, when they're emptying the prisons to supposedly reduce the possibility of people contracting the coronavirus, they're willing to put someone who's a father, a husband, a contributing member of society at risk because of that. They put the jurors at risk by having to deal with all of this instead of the resources being used towards, prosecuting violent offenders. So it's just sad to see all of this happening. That's why I'm again encouraging as many people out there in the world that's hearing what's going on with me to get involved. Even if you don't live here, you can write the judge, you can call the judge and the district attorney's office, have them, be lenient on my sentencing or even vacate it altogether. They don't have to. They can give me time served. They can say the judge has the discretion to vacate the juror's decision and say, I dismiss the case. You can go home, Mr. Wildstar. And I would love that, to go in that courtroom and leave the same day.
There's been a huge problem in this country and many others for a very long time. And conservatives have a lot of issues with trying to articulate it because of the propaganda that goes around. And then liberals just seem to completely ignore it. You brought up taking away your son's father over recording court proceedings, essentially. And, conservatives like to tout the statistics about, back in the 60s, black households, 75% of them had fathers. Now there's 25%. And it's like, the reason that is because the war on drugs has literally stripped these fathers out of their homes and thrown them in prison. But you don't even need the war on drugs to do it because they're doing it to you off of a recording, or I guess 6, whatever. It's asinine. And what John convinced me a while back that we should stop calling it the justice system because that implies a semblance of justice. It's a legal system.
It's a legal system.
That is true.
It doesn't. Calling it the justice system. The use of that language, it directly implies that justice is administered. This is a complete misrepresentation of justice. There is literally no point to this. If I don't understand. I mean, I know why I would have never. I know why I would have never made that jury. You know, because I would have found the entire proceedings ridiculous.
Yeah,
I mean, someone's feelings were hurt. I mean, what?
And that's all I needed was one juror to stand up and say exactly what you said. This is ridiculous, and you know, we shouldn't be here because of this. You know.
Yeah, well, the judges and commissioners don't exactly advertise the whole concept of jury nullification, because that would subvert their power and authority over us free-range peasants.
But it doesn't even have to be a discussion of nullification. All it has to be is an objection to the proceedings. And if one brave person would have done that, that would have been great. And the biggest slap in the face about all of this is the damn courts were recording and broadcasting my trial live on YouTube. So they're letting the world know it's okay for us to record court proceedings, but it's not okay for you to do it, especially when we tell you not to.
I don't see. I'm trying to understand. I can't understand how where the disconnect with the First Amendment is coming in here. If the court had no official transcripts or recordings of these traffic violations, which that's meaningless enough as it is. I mean, if you didn't harm anyone or damage anyone's property or threaten to damage anyone's property or incur any third party cost, I don't care. But if they have no recordings of the event, no official transcripts, and you exercise your lawfully, allegedly guaranteed constitutional right to record your public officials in public places, so we have a federal statute. We have federal guidelines from the U.S. Constitution. We have federal guidelines from various departments like Homeland Security. You have state language written in regards to this matter. I avoid the word laws because that's a little more than the opinion of some politician at the time, which arbitrarily changes depending on cultural norms of the period. So we've had significant legal changes in our own country just in the last few decades. But the First Amendment exists. We know it exists. We know it in practice. There's been case law from. I don't understand where the issue was.
Yeah, that is puzzling to me too. Believe it or not, the judge made it a point to repeatedly say that this is not a First Amendment issue. This has no argument about constitutional rights. This has simply to do with court rules, court procedures, and Mr. Wildstar not respecting that.
Court rules don't supersede the supreme law of the country.
He, again, according to him, and again, this is broadcast live on YouTube. So the trials is public, and I now have a recording of my trial. So if anyone wants to see what happened themselves, it's available. But there was no official court recording of my trial other than the YouTube broadcast, which is just a one-timer. So if you didn't catch it then, you missed it pretty much. But as far as the laws, as you are talking about, you're correct. We have the Constitution, but then we have the state law too. And state law says that I have the right to record. Again, PC 148G, I have it right here, says the fact that a person takes a photograph or makes an audio or video recording of a public officer or peace officer while the officer is in a public place, or the person taking a photograph or making a recording is in the place he or she has the right to be, does not constitute in and of itself a violation of resisting arrest, is subdivision A. Nor does it constitute reasonable suspicion to detain the person or probable cause to arrest the person. So the judge wouldn't even recognize state law, this PC 148G, by informing the jurors of that. And that's why I'm saying that he is guilty also of jury tampering by not allowing evidence to be presented. There wasn't even any introduction of case law. And to say that the Constitution is null and void in his courtroom is definitely a violation of his oath.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to go back here to this Penal Code 166A1. Okay. And I am assuming here that what they're going to say, or their argument is the impair the respect due the court's authority portion of this law, which would be, I guess, the rules if you want to stretch it out. Well, that would seem to me to indicate that this law here, PC 166A1, stretched out to include the rules of the court, means that the judge can literally change whatever law or enact whatever law he wants at any time, at any place,
right?
Just because he feels like it, and throw somebody in jail for a year because reasons.
Exactly. And the language is extremely vague. So a court order could be this. If the judge said jump up and down, because the prosecutor said it, you can't just go up in the courtroom and jump up and down if you wanted to. And cause a disturbance. But if the judge said jump up and down and you did not, you would be in violation of the court's authority and be violating a court order. And the judge could have you arrested right there. Exactly. You just said it, brother.
I mean, honestly, so John and I have had discussions over a lot of philosophical things as it relates to the state, but ultimately, a person who works for the state is no more than is a slave master, because they have, at a minimum, no matter how small the government is, they have more of a say over your life, your property, and the fruits of your labor than you as the individual do. This is an extreme example of it, and it shouldn't be an extreme example because all you were doing is recording,
exactly.
And yet. And I still don't understand what they hope to achieve out of this. So let's say they sentence you to the maximum. They send you to jail for 6 years. What does the state get out of this? Nothing. The judge feels better about himself because he sent somebody to jail, stripped him away from his family. You got bills to pay, right? I'm sure that that's going to put a nice amount of additional burden on your ability to meet your financial obligations. And I don't know what you do for a living, but I'm sure that might be.
Well, yeah, I'm not going to be able to provide for my family, and it's a pandemic happening right now. You know, families are on the stretch and losing their jobs left and right. And right now, my household has been limited to one source of income, and that's my wife, because I'm running for governor of California. So I get arrested, this would derail my campaign completely. Of course, I would have to suspend it if I'm going to be missing the election date. And the biggest devastation out of this is me not being around to raise my son, who just turned 18 months. And, he's learning to talk, and I would love to keep reading him books and teaching him his alphabet and, doing what a father should be doing and raising his son. But I'll be robbed that opportunity, and so will my family.
Well, good thing you're not certain classes of people, because then someone would argue you're being separated from your family as a reason to not prosecute you.
Right. Wow. It's not children in cages. It's fathers in cages.
I mean, not to conflate the two, but it's just I have no words. This is absurd and silly, and to call it shameful, I think I think that's an understatement. There isn't anything that can be derived from this that I think a person that isn't worshiping at the altar of these self-appointed gods, apparently, can go, wait a minute, how can't he record how can him recording result in such prosecution? And the fact that Jesus, the fact that it's 6 years or even on the table, that's insane.
Right.
That's insane. People, I could assault someone and face lower potential penalties.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I've
done a month in jail for a supposed assault, so I know.
If something like this happened in Syria, the United States would bomb it.
And say it was a human rights violation.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. So we're going to correct it with more violence. But you're right. I mean, it's an abuse of authority by the state, definitely. I mean, we know they're supposed to work for us. Why are we acting on that? Why are we not holding these people accountable, especially when they're acting as if they're above the law? And if we don't have any system of laws, any way to balance out the good and bad in our society, then people are going to start taking it into their own hands. And that's when vigilantism picks up. And we saw that with the Black Lives Matter protests. We saw that with the with the January 6th Capitol riot. And we're going to continue seeing it here in America if our law system continues to abuse its authority. And that's why I'm running for governor, is because my job as governor would be to hold government officials accountable. Government has acted outside of authority, so much so to where we've gotten conditioned to believe that it should be telling us we need to wear a mask, we need to stay indoors, we need to shut up and do as they say when they tell us to. That's not the way it works at all. We gave them the job, we should be able to take away that job. We pay their bills and we pay their salaries. We should be able to take away that ability. And again, we give them their costumes of authority. So if we want to remove them from those positions, then we can easily do so. But we have to act. If not, they will continue to act as gangsters and authoritarians and do as they please. We're seeing that happen with me. And I would rather continue to live my life as a free man here in America instead of being made subject to enslavement, because that's the only benefit the state is going to get from putting me in jail is now they have new slave labor for the prison workforce, and of course they get to keep wasting taxpayers' money on jailing nonviolent, victimless offenders.
Yeah.
Thank you for making that last point there. Non-violent, victimless offenders. So no crime has actually been committed because there's no injured party exists. No damaged. There isn't any damaged property. There's no theft of property. No one suffered any monetary losses of any kind.
The court was hurt.
The commission's feelings.
No. And the prosecutor, remember, he represents we the people, the 99%.
Yes.
So when he gets up there and he says, "Look, jurors, he hurt us. He didn't do what he told them to. If everybody didn't do what we told them to, then none of this would work."
Well,
and they believe
I'm fine with complying with laws. That's not a law.
Right. It's not a law.
Well, I object to many laws, but what I'm saying is,
and as well you should. When there's an immoral law, it's your ethic duty and a moral duty to fight against that. Martin Luther King said that. And what's sad is this happened during Black History Month. You have the OC prosecutor talking about ridding the criminal justice system of racial prejudice, and they quoted Martin Luther King and just
lip service.
Yes, exactly. More virtue signaling.
I just want to highlight I just want to highlight this. The state assassinated Martin Luther King and then named a holiday after him.
Right.
Well, they didn't officially assassinate him.
The state assassinated Martin Luther King.
However, it considering that he had an actual FBI handler that followed him everywhere, and they were utilizing the COINTELPRO program, look it up for those that aren't familiar, to keep tabs on him. They knew about his whereabouts at all times because he was being monitored by the FBI. So the idea that they were unaware of, if let's assume it was a random shooter, they would be aware of who this random shooter was. But, logically speaking, it was likely them. But we don't know that.
This sounds just like all conspiracy theories. Where is your tinfoil hat, Mr. Galt?
Well, I've actually been called by the FBI and stalked by them also, so I guess you can add me to that list. And,
same.
If you aren't on the FBI watch list by now, then you're doing something wrong. So
no, I got interrogated by the FBI because I showed up to a Black Lives Matter protest back in June and marched with them while wearing a Hawaiian shirt, body armor, and carrying around my M4.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm sorry, my AR, because M4s aren't legal because of reasons. But yeah, I got a nice talking to from the FBI for exercising my First Amendment right.
Right.
So, my natural right of free speech protected by the First Amendment.
No. Don't minimize it. They wanted you. They actually suggested that they wanted you to be an undercover agent for them.
That is true. They wanted me to inform on other Boogaloo groups and individuals, and I promptly told them, "You, sir, may F off." That was not a pleasant experience.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna.
Well, obviously, talking with the FBI is unpleasant unless you're certain members of the political class, and then you can laugh about it on TV about having an FBI investigation. But
wipe it with what, like a cloth, or?
Yeah, stop it. Anyway, go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
I was saying that's another waste of resources right there. You would think our FBI would have bigger targets, to go after, opposed to just, law-abiding citizens. They have targets on their back, and they're being used as a method of intimidation to prevent Americans from exercising their freedoms. That happened to you, Derek, and then happened to me. And I'm sure it's happened to tons of people out there that are listening, but when are we going to stand up and do something about it collectively,
Yeah, so here is really the common denominator behind all of this. Even Martin Luther King, right? Every one of us has been targeted by the state because of our overtness of speaking out against the state. You have been running for office on a platform of holding the state accountable. You're a threat to the state's authority.
Right.
The Boog movement is a threat to the state's authority because they criticize the state. Martin Luther King was assassinated because how dare he think that everybody should be judged on the content of their character, not the color of their skin. But what have you. I'm not trying to say that my work is anywhere near as good as his, so don't misunderstand, but the state doesn't like competition. The state does not like anybody that is a threat to their authority. They might say we have freedom of speech. They might say that they respect our freedom of thought and freedom of association. They don't. The second that you stop towing the line is the second that you end up on an unofficial list.
Right.
How dare somebody like Edward Snowden expose that the state has been literally spying on millions of Americans without a warrant or probable cause of any kind and gathering all of this data on them.
It's bulk data collection. It's fine, Derek. It's bulk data collection.
If you have nothing to hide, then...
Oceania has always been at war with East Asia, and Eurasia has always been our ally, and the chocolate rations were always 30 grams, and Big Brother cares about you and is watching. Of course. So, all right, Nickolas, I thank you again for coming on and sharing your story. I'm going to put a link to his YouTube channel and the videos that he was talking about in the show notes so you can find those. For those that aren't in California, let me start with those who are in California. You're organizing a protest on March 12th. That is next Friday, March 12th. Where at and at what time?
At the Santa Ana Courthouse at 8 a.m. My trial sentencing is at 9 a.m. So I'm asking everybody to be there at 8 so we can make some noise for an hour or so. Hopefully get it into their heads that we are upset about what's going on and get them to overturn the sentencing and verdict. So be there at 8 a.m. Do you have
your free speech permits?
I sure do. I will be passing out pocket constitutions for anyone that attends. So please be there. I also plan on passing out information about jury nullification as well as creating a common law grand jury. I'm kickstarting that here in California, and I'm looking for members to join in creating the common law grand jury of California. So I'll be talking about all of this during the protest. So please be there. Just head on over to my website, governorwildstar.com/freewildstar, or just go to governorwildstar.com and hit on the Free Wildstar tab. That'll break down all of the information about what's going on with my case, have links to the videos regarding the trial, and provide those items, those action items about this call to action. I want to turn this moment into a movement. Like I said, we can fight and win. Then we definitely will have a victory that can be celebrated by all of the people in America. So get involved wherever you are with the writing campaign. Call the judge, the DA. I have a GoFundMe link on there because I will fight this all the way to the Supreme Court if need be. But of course, that's going to cost
very costly.
Oh yeah. But I'm willing to put in the time and the work to make that happen. So if people are willing to chip in that effort, please make a donation to my GoFundMe link.
And for for people that aren't in California, all of this information is also on your website, correct?
Yes.
How to write them, how to call them, how to donate, all of that.
Yes, I have all of the information there for you. All you got to do is just click the link. That was actually created by Angela McArdle, who's the chair of the Los Angeles Libertarian Party. So I got a lot of libertarians behind me in this effort and doing their best to fight this out with me as well, because it's all about, defending our liberties as Americans. And they understand that more than anybody. And if anyone else does as well, please share my story. That's what helps the most, is bringing more awareness about what's going on. So share one of the many videos of what's about all of this. I have a flyer there that kind of breaks it all down on my website. So you can save that image, share it around social media if you could. Just definitely help spread the word and use the hashtag FreeWildstar, please.
All right. And some people might, usually this isn't found in libertarian crowds, but just in case, some people might feel that this is kind of a daunting task. And make no mistake about it, it is. We're trying to force the state to do something that it does not want to do.
Right.
But there is definite precedent where the state has backed down. The Bundy Ranch incident is a prime example of that. The state, if faced with enough backlash, will back down. we need everybody to engage. Get your friends to engage. Get your families to engage. Everybody, just send an email, call the number, and if you live in California or you can make it to California, show up to this protest and help show your support. Show them that this is unacceptable. The more people that we have doing this, the better the odds are. There's no guarantee, but the better the odds are that Nickolas here will cease to be a victim of the state. So we need everybody to engage. So please share this episode, share his YouTube videos, his YouTube channel, his website. Share all of this information across every social media platform that you have. And speaking of social media, Nickolas, where can they find you on social media?
Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all of that good stuff. Just look me up, Governor Wildstar, on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Or, of course, you could just visit my website. I have those social media icons there for you on my website, governorwildstar.com, or my campaign website, which is wildstar2022.com.
Right on. If you would want to say anything else, I will give you the floor before we wrap things up here.
Well, all I can say really is that the responses that I've been receiving so far has been overwhelming. It's been incredible. And Derek is absolutely right. We can push the needle here. It's people power that makes change happen in our community. We can't rely on our elected officials. We can't rely on our public officers to defend our freedoms and liberties and stand for justice in this country. It's up to us to do so. I mean, even recently with the guy that was walking in Texas, the black guy that was walking home from work that was arrested, it wasn't until a public outcry and a public uproar happened where this kid was actually had his charges dropped. They were going to prosecute him and treat him as a criminal because of that. So people power changes everything. With this situation in particular, as I said, I am running for governor of California, and if given the opportunity to serve the people of California, I'd be making that statement on an incredible level, and you can be a part of that. So please help spread the word, and let's bring back liberty to California.
Right on, man.
Well said.
John, do you have anything before we close out?
No, I don't think there's anything to contribute. This is shameful, and all parties involved should be ashamed. Like, imagine that. It's like you go home. What did you do today, Dad? Well, we maliciously prosecuted this guy for trying to record something because he disrespected the court. What?
Well, I mean, in fairness, the prosecutor wouldn't explain it to their child that way. They would say, oh, we got this evil person off the streets that dared to subvert the authority of the state.
You're right.
Wow.
Evil
That's such
person.
a narcissistic way of doing it. I mean, these people really are evil. I mean, you really have to be such a sinister person to believe that. You aren't the humanitarian you're making yourself out to be, and have others believe. And it really is a disrespect to the position. So if we want to bring back some integrity, to these positions of authority, whether it be any law enforcement officer, a police officer or a prosecutor or a judge, we have to make sure that they're, not acting like they're above the law. It's that simple,
Yeah. Well, so Nickolas, what we do on this show whenever we close out is we try and highlight some of the positive things that are in our lives. Despite all of the negative, we want to make sure that we stay focused on the things that we're thankful for, the things that we're grateful for, and the wonderful blessings that we have in our life. So despite this awful thing that you're going through, do you have anything positive that you're thankful for, your blessings that you'd like to highlight?
Absolutely. I got a lot of love in my life, I must say that. As awful as this situation may have been and may seem, I feel very lighthearted and high spirited. And that's because of the amount of love that I receive from the public. So thank you to all of you that have done everything in your power to support me in every way that you can. It's uplifted not only me, but my family, because it's been difficult for my wife. And my son and we have a very tight-knit relationship. She calls me the favorite parrot, because wherever he goes, he's grabbing my hand and taking me with him. So you are doing everything in your power to make sure that my family is receiving that love, and we all appreciate it. So thank you to each and every one of you.
Well said. John?
And you and Derek and John, definitely.
Well, thank you.
It's my pleasure, man. John, go ahead. What do you got?
Oh, well, I mean, I'm, this has certainly been a downer. However, I must again say I'm thankful for the safety of my family, my employment. I'm glad to be able to care for my family and care for my children. So it's I'm very happy about that. I have some choice words for this situation and the people involved, and I swear
this is a special episode. Go ahead and just let it out, man.
No, it's just no. I think it's incumbent on men to control themselves, and we certainly can be. We are the motivators for evil and the motivators for the world's greatest goods. So it's incumbent on we as men to manage our emotions and try to direct them positively. Because obviously we as we all know, they can become quite destructive forces. But I don't. I'm gonna just say it. I hate these people. I refrain from using the word hate because it's such a strong word. But
I know exactly how you feel, man. Trust me.
I can't, because you're a human being. This is real. This isn't.
And court is a game.
Yeah.
Every game is played on the court, whether it's basketball or, whatever the case may be. It's a court. And they're using this game, but people are, being abused out of it. Like you said, it's sad because our lives are being used as pawns in their evil scheme. And many people have suffered because of it, and many people will continue to until we say no more games.
Yeah. This is. Yeah. Let's cut it there because there's just no.
Oh, okay. I get it.
Not many words. You have to dig deep.
Well, not words that can be delivered in a calm manner.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm sure Nickolas has a few choice words as well.
Yeah. So I applaud you for your self-control and your levity in the situation as well.
I'm with you, man. I've been having to choose my words wisely. I mean, when I've let them fly, that's when they've gotten me into trouble. Hence why I'm in this situation to begin with. So even when you're doing it with a smile, you still have to hold your tongue. It's awful that it's that way, that we can't be honest with each other. And that's another reason why we need better leadership, so we can actually have honest conversations and people can vent and express themselves and show emotion without it being looked at as being disobedient, so it's up to us to change things, man. So I appreciate you both for, again, spearheading that effort and giving me an opportunity to get my message out there, and because we can change this together.
Yes, we can. So some positives in my life. I'm incredibly thankful for my wife, who has sacrificed a lot to support me in a lot of my endeavors. I'm thankful for John. I have just an amazing co-host, and I love this product that I, and our friend Cody have created, and very optimistic for the future regarding that. And also, I've started the cover design process for my book that'll be coming out here in the next few weeks, and that I'm very excited for as well. So despite all of the negatives, I have a lot of things that I'm very thankful and blessed to have. So those are the things that I'm thankful for. So it is that time, and Nickolas, I know this is your first time, but whenever we do close the show, we raise our glasses, and if you're listening at home, raise your glasses along with us. And if you don't have a glass, pantomime it, because this is what we do. And we raise our glasses, and we toast, and this is a big one for you, Nickolas. Even though we close every show the exact same way, I couldn't mean it any more than I do right now, specifically because of the things that you are being forced to go through. So I raise my glass, and I toast for liberty.
For liberty.
For liberty. Cheers.
You've been listening to the Gentlemen for Liberty podcast. Join us at patreon.com/Gentlemen for Liberty to show your support. Patrons get access to bonus content, can suggest show topics, and more. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Gentlemen for Liberty, and on Twitter at Gents4Liberty. Be sure to check out our blog, gentlemenforliberty.com, and sign up with your email address for updates. Please rate our podcast in your app, and until next time, we raise our glasses to you for liberty.
This has been a Gentlemen for Liberty production, hosted by Derek Wills and John Galt. Copyright Gentlemen for Liberty 2021.